These are 5 incredible picks in fantasy football that have league-winning upside. Before we start, grab your energy drinks. We have a white monster. Take a sip and let's get started. Starting with Kenneth Walker, who's coming off an injury-riddled season, but still finished with 1,000 total yards, 9 touchdowns. He was the RB20 in fantasy points per game. He still got a lot of work, averaging 17 touches per game, 82 total yards, ranking 4th in missed tackles forced per attempt, 26th in explosive run rate. This is a really good player, you guys, and this was all behind a backed up offensive line on a poorly executed offensive system. It was just stale, not very creative, but thankfully Seattle has an entirely new coaching staff, new head coach Mike Macdonald coming over from Baltimore, new offensive coordinator who I really like in Ryan Grubb, coming from college at Washington. I really like Grubb. I think he's going to transform the Seattle offense. He will most likely bring a pass-happy approach. I know he said in interviews that it's going to be balanced, but even if it is pass-happy, I think this is the year Kenneth Walker erupts. I think they're going to use him in that workhorse role. I like Zach Charbonnet, but he didn't do anything that really stood out last year. This new coaching staff has no allegiances to Charbonnet. They didn't draft him. I think Walker is going to fit what Grubb wants to do on offense better. Up-tempo, fast-paced with an explosive back like Walker. And a lot of people think Walker is this bad receiving back. That is not true. He just hasn't gotten many opportunities in the passing game over the last 2 years. With a run-heavy Pete Carroll who liked to bring in a different guy on third down, I just don't think that that will be the case this year. And even last season, Walker beat out Charbonnet in catch rate, yards per catch, and yards per route run last year. Obviously, Charbonnet is going to be worked in from time to time. I just don't think we're going to see the split that we saw last year. I think it's going to be highly in favor of Kenneth Walker, and I think a lot of people aren't expecting this to happen, which is why he is being pushed down draft boards. Walker is obviously the better pure runner. He's more explosive. He might even be more dynamic than Charbonnet, and I think he's in for a huge year 3, and you can get him in round 5. I think that's tremendous value, which is why I also think he is going to be a huge league winner this year. Don't be surprised when Walker finishes in the top 12 running backs in fantasy this year. All right, to my next player who I absolutely love this year is Rome Odunze. He is an elite prospect with very little weaknesses. He was one of the best receivers in all of college football last year. 1,600 plus receiving yards, 14 touchdowns in his final year at Washington. And I think a lot of people don't realize how good of a route runner and separator Odunze is. I don't know if it's because he's 6'3", 215, and people think that he should just be a vertical threat. That is far from the case. Rome can run a full NFL route tree. He's a contested catch machine, red zone, touchdown threat. And now you put Odunze in a situation where he has what could be elite quarterback play this year, with Caleb Williams, the first overall pick, and Chicago is going to throw a ton under new offensive coordinator Shane Waldron. This is like the perfect storm for Odunze, who I honestly would not be shocked in the slightest if by middle of the season he's the wide receiver 2 on this team, with Keenan Allen being 32. I love Keenan Allen, but history does not support a receiver joining a new team on a new offense, new system, new quarterback at an older age of 32, on top of being an injury-prone receiver who hasn't been able to even finish the last 2 seasons as Allen has gotten hurt in both years. Odunze is going to shock a lot of people this year. I think he could have a Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase type of rookie season. A lot of people are being blinded by Keenan Allen and DJ Moore, but what if Odunze somehow is the best receiver on this roster? He already seems like he has some very nice chemistry with Caleb Williams. They seem like really good friends. That matters. I don't know. Maybe this is a gut call, but getting a guy like this with this type of talent in round 6+, he's absolutely going to be a league winner down the stretch. All right, to my next player, Jordan Love. It was truly a tale of 2 seasons for Love as his first year as a starter. Struggled immensely through the first 8 games last year, and then caught fire from week 8 on, leading the NFL in QBR, touchdown to interception ratio, total touchdowns, completing a ridiculous 70% of his passes, and he was the QB3 in fantasy points per game over that stretch. And his situation got better in year 2 as a starter. Love was also the 3rd quarterback in NFL history with 4,000 plus passing yards, 30 plus touchdown passes, and a playoff win in his first season as a starter. It's a small sample size, but this is not a fluke. Love is a really good quarterback. He is an ascending quarterback. He's already a top 10 quarterback in this league, no doubt. And the Packers agree as they signed him to that massive $220 million deal. Jordan Love also, what he did last year was extremely impressive considering two of the most explosive players on offense, Aaron Jones and Christian Watson, were both in and out of the lineup, which felt like neither of them played for most of last year. I know Aaron Jones got hot at the end of the season, but Love was doing it with an extremely young receiver core that doesn't have this high draft capital outside of Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, Romeo Doubs, a lot of guys that were learning with him. I know Doubs is a little bit more experienced, but two really young tight ends in Musgrave and Kraft. A.J. Dillon in the backfield, who's not a good running back. Thankfully, they upgraded with Josh Jacobs. I really like Marshawn Lloyd. This offense is going to be better. These receivers are now going to be more experienced. And somehow Jordan Love is the quarterback 10 on Sleeper right now. Love is going to be what Dak Prescott was last season, where everyone's fading Dak. He's a round 8, round 9 pick, and then you look up and you're like, oh my gosh, Dak is a top 5, top 3 fantasy quarterback. That's going to be Love this year. And on top of that, Love even has some rushing upside. He ran for over 200 yards and 4 touchdowns last year, so it's not like he doesn't give you anything on the ground. We love a little rushing upside for fantasy purposes, but Love could easily have 45 total touchdowns this year. I mean, he had like 36 last year. In his first year as a starter, like, this is one of the best later round quarterbacks. If you like to wait, Jordan Love is your guy who brings top 3 upside at the position in fantasy this year. All right, to my next player who's being majorly slept on, and that is Chase Brown. Let's go back to his college days for a second, because I think a lot of people don't understand the type of player that Brown is just because he saw minimal work behind volume monster Joe Mixon. Chase Brown is a workhorse back. Look at these college numbers and you can decide for yourself. In his final year at Illinois, 1,800 total yards and 13 touchdowns, but it gets better. He averaged 27 carries a game. So this isn't some like Bucky Irving or some smaller scat back that is only going to get on the field in pass down situations. No. Chase Brown is 5'10", 215 plus pounds. He's not this small situational back. He can carry the mail. He can be the workhorse for Cincinnati this year, which I think he's going to be. How have we not learned our lesson about these type of backs like Zach Moss? He's this year's Alexander Madison without a question. And newsflash, Zach Moss is actually lighter than Chase Brown. Chase Brown, in terms of stockiness and weight, is the bigger back. So everyone who thinks that Zach Moss is just going to be this incredible player in fantasy this year because he had a couple of good games with the Colts last season is insane to me. Look at what he did before that. He has like 400 rushing yards a year. Pretty sure he got cut by several teams, one being Buffalo. This is not a good running back. He thrived in Shane Steichen's brilliant system. He had a couple good games, but people that are on the Zach Moss train are going to be really hurt this year when you can get Chase Brown a couple rounds later, who is a physical specimen with impressive athleticism, 4.4 speed. He's explosive. He ranked 12th in yards after contact per attempt his rookie year, 16th in missed tackles forced per attempt. And Brown is already seeing first team snaps in practice, so the ADPs are probably going to change before September, but I honestly would not be surprised if Brown takes over this backfield. It could be week 1 or it could be week 5, week 6, down the stretch when it really matters. I think Chase Brown is going to be an absolute menace. I like betting on, as you know, the more talented, explosive players, pass down backs who just carry a lot more upside. That is Chase Brown to a T, who's better than you think and is a smash value in round 11. All right, to my final player who I don't understand how people don't see what's about to happen this year, but it's Ladd McConkey. And of course, right when I started recording, the Herbert news broke about him injuring his foot. Here's what I'll say. It sounds like Justin will be fine for week 1. It is a little bit of a negative, obviously, because he's missing practice reps, building even more chemistry with Lad. So that is a downside. While they've had several practices, a month, 2 months, however long they've been working together, that's been great, but they are missing out on some valuable reps. So that's not ideal, but that's not enough for me to take Lad off this list. And looking at McConkey's time in Georgia, if you go look up his numbers, they're not going to blow you away. And that's for a variety of different reasons. One being he had to compete for targets with stud tight end Brock Bowers, and he dealt with a couple nagging, annoying injuries throughout his college career. But the advanced metrics are juicy. These are indicators that McConkey is going to be a really good NFL wide receiver, even though his numbers in college aren't great, because his final year at Georgia, he was in the 91st percentile in separation and yards per route run, and 98th percentile in receiving grade. He's an excellent route runner who can win in the slot. He can win on the perimeter. He has impressive quickness. He's a nice deep threat. He'll make you miss in open space. He's this year's Tank Dell, and no one sees it coming because people probably think McConkey is just a small little gadget player. The same way people thought about Dell, but no, he can be used on the outside. He can line up all over the field. And on top of that, Lad is just one of those guys that you like to root for. He has that relentless motor, that work ethic. He's giving me Cooper Kupp vibes in that sense. And on top of all those good things, he has no competition for targets this year. Quentin Johnston, who's dropping over-the-shoulder passes in practice, looks cooked, who is really disappointing because I did like him coming out of college. Obviously, his career's not over, but it's not looking great. Joshua Palmer entering year 4, I believe. He's just a guy. He's not anything special. He's a nice veteran to have in the lineup for Herbert. And then they bring in new offensive coordinator Greg Roman. I'll admit, his time in Baltimore, not a huge fan. But I think Roman did the best he could with what he was given. And he understood at that time that Lamar's best chance of helping them win football games was running the football. Lamar didn't turn into the passer that he is now until last year when Todd Monken kind of unlocked him and he had a lot of career highs across the board with his passing metrics. So Greg Roman's not an idiot. He's a smart coach. I think he's a good evaluator. He knows what he's dealing with Justin Herbert, which is one of the best passers of the football, gunslinger, one of the best pure passers, best quarterback in the league. They're going to throw the football. And even if you don't believe those things to be true, I don't think the Chargers have a very good defense. So what are they going to do when they're down 21-3 at halftime? They're going to throw the ball. Who do you think Herbert's going to look for when they need a touchdown, need a first down, just need to start moving the sticks? It's going to be McConkey because McConkey is a good route runner. He can separate. That's huge for Herbert. He's going to be Herbert's Keenan Allen. He's going to be in the Keenan Allen role. We know how valuable that is. We saw what Allen did last year with little competition for targets, and now they don't even have an Austin Eckler in the backfield. They have no check down back with Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, Kamani Vidal. So McConkey's probably going to have 120, 130 plus targets. Don't be surprised when he racks up 100 receptions. This dude is going to be a PPR monster. He's a really good receiver. And we've seen these rookie guys break out. I think that's what we're going to get with McConkey. The writing's on the wall, and he's still going in round 8 plus. Like, he's one of the easiest players to click on. These are the type of guys you target later in drafts that if everything breaks the right way, he could be an absolute fantasy superstar, which I already think he's going to be. I'm going to be drafting McConkey aggressively everywhere I can. Woo! That was fun. Hope you guys had fun. That's all I have for you guys today. I really appreciate all the support. If you enjoyed the video, if you felt like you got something from it, please subscribe, please like the video, and more importantly, leave a comment. Let me know what you thought. Ask me a question about your upcoming drafts. Ask me a question on a player. I respond to every single comment. I want to help you guys win more than anything. So leave a comment. Let's connect. Let's build a relationship, and I'll see you in the next one.